Is teaching a child 2 languages or more a good idea?
So when I went to a primary international preschool in Osaka, I was so surprised to see like 6-year-old kid explain about the organs in English very, very logically.
Only maybe other bilinguals would understand is that you can code mix. That might be the technical term, but you can speak to somebody in English and Japanese and mix the language completely and have almost like your own language that nobody else understands.
Like teachers in Japanese education have to stand up and they have to improve their Japanese education.
What do you do if no matter what you do or what you try, your kids just, they don't seem to be interested in English? Do you keep, trying to create an environment so that they will eventually learn English? Do you take a step back and kind of take the approach you did and just kind of let them figure it out until they are ready to learn English?
Well, as you say, there are so many parents who are really having a struggling to provide Oうち英語because, as you said, there are so many kids who do not want to learn English. They start to cry when the parents show them the English video or something. So one of my kind of advice is try to put those kind of kids in the English-speaking community. It is not good for all the parents to have the burden teaching English on their own. It is really difficult, right? And in my case, my wife is a school nurse, and she loved traveling in a lot of Asian countries when she was young, but she does not speak English, and she did not think providing English education early on was a good idea. So that's kind of one of the things I did not push English education because I needed consensus. But now she understood and understands English education is really important. In Japan, we have been losing community for a long time, but I would say that it is really important to set up a like kind of small community. So I think as for English education, like building up a good community would be a kind of a good solution. And another thing, there are hundreds of foreign like exchange students in Japan. So we could employ 1 or 2 university students, giving them a kind of part-time job. And then if one student majoring in art and speaking English, they those kind of exchange students can be an art teacher, art immersion teacher.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Changing the environment. And, I think you touched on a point where you take the kid to a community where they see other people, other kids, other adults speaking in English. And I think that is a huge point to understand, because whether it's you reading books, English books to kids, or having them watch a YouTube channel in English, if they are not interested and they continue to cry or, fuss every time you put it on, then doing that over and over and over again is in essence going to make them not like English, because now they're being forced to do something, right? I mean, what did Albert Einstein say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting, different results. With kids and, with adults too, but especially with kids are very adaptable to situations, right? Very adaptable. That's probably one of the biggest strengths that they have, is their adaptability in any situation that they get put in. If you put them in a situation where they see that, oh, this is the language that I was hearing on YouTube, and now people are actually speaking it. You see kids playing with each other, speaking the language that you're watching on YouTube, and you actually see it firsthand, and it looks like the kids are having a lot of fun. It's going to change something in the kids. Maybe, we don't really know. Or the international student is another good example. You could even bring in an international student to your home for like a week and have them be a part of your family. And now mom and dad has to speak to the international students in English, and the kids will see firsthand how English is used in the real world. It's not just TV, it's not just books. They see their parents struggling and having a hard time, but laughing with the students. And now to the kids, they'll start to understand like, oh, this is what English is all about. It's not about like study, or I have to learn. Like they will start learning the practicality aspect of it, and also that it can actually be fun. So I feel like changing that environment and putting them in an environment where they can feel the language is huge.
Let me tell you about another example. My second son. My wife is like big fan of volleyball. She's still playing in the community, and my first son also has played volleyball for such a long time. And my second son he's now third graders of a junior high school student, and he's now the captain of the team. But when my second son was little, he showed any interest in playing volleyball. So when my first son played in the community volleyball team, I was I needed to look after my second son while my wife and my first son was in the gymnasium playing volleyball. I tried to like take him into the gymnasium, but he always turned it down. So what we did was the running around the elementary school's field and like help him to climb up the jungle gym and stuff. But gradually, he started to show some interest in playing volleyball because probably he saw his brother and wife joyfully talking about volleyball, and then a couple years later like he joined the community volleyball like team, and then joined the volleyball team in junior high school, and then now it's really amazing. He's now become the captain.
Wow.
So we could do the same kind of thing to Oうち英語 as well.
Exactly. And that reminds me, I spoke to you last week that up until fourth grade, I was at a full-time private Japanese school in Los Angeles. Very strange. I know it's hard to wrap your head around and understand, but even though I was living in Los Angeles, when I was 10 years old, I couldn't speak any English, even though my father was American. When I went to American school for about a year and a half, I gathered with like 4 or 5 of the Japanese friends that were at the American school and only spoke Japanese. So my English didn't improve at all for the first year and a half. What changed? It wasn't that I suddenly started understanding English. It wasn't that I suddenly started loving the classes or the teachers. I joined a basketball team. Randomly, somebody, one of my classmates noticed that I was pretty tall. Ever since I was a kid, I was a tall kid. And the team needed a center on the team. They needed a center. So they said, hey, June, do you want to come to practice on Friday? We have a team and we're looking for a center. So I was like, okay, sure. I will go, I guess. So I went home, told my parents. And on Friday, I remember I went to my first practice. I fell in love with the game of basketball. It was fun. It was a lot of fun playing basketball with my teammates, but my teammates couldn't speak Japanese. They were all Americans. So it started with basketball. I wanted to be good at basketball. And then from there, I realized if I wanted to be good at basketball, I have to also be, I have to have communication with my teammates. And from my teammates, I began learning English. And from there, for about a year and a half, 2 years, I didn't learn any English. I couldn't speak any English. Within 6 months, I was speaking just like my teammates. I was using all these like conversational basketball terms. And before you know it, I stopped speaking Japanese and I was only speaking in English. So this is one of those situations where, like with your son in volleyball, for me, it was basketball. Little things like that can really change the way kids view a language.
parents who are struggling with おうち英語 is probably pushing too much.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were in their shoes, probably I'm going to show them a lot of great role models and English speakers and inviting foreigners at home and then creating a very fun atmosphere. And I would like to help the kids to get to know the joy of communicating in the second language. But that would be a kind of a good like shortcut.
And when you say struggle, is it because they are not seeing the type of progress that they were hoping to see? Like, let's say, for example, they do it for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. They probably have a certain expectation of their kids to speak however amount of English, but they have not reached it yet. So that is why they struggle. What do you mean by struggle here? Or is it that the kids are just not interested in whatever curriculum they're providing?
Struggle means here is that a lot of parents have a lot of fear of being rejected.
By their kids?
Yeah, by the kids. No, I don't need any Disney DVDs.
Gotcha.
I want to show them in Japanese or and started to cry, things like that.
Gotcha.